Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Jeff Klein's Speakers Sitting in Chairs Chatting on Air. This is our first international podcast. We have Barry Spilchuk with us from Canada, Toronto, right?
Yeah, Toronto it is.
And Barry and I have known each other 10 years. I know this because I know when I went to IBI Global, which is now CEO Space, in July of 2004.
Wow.
And it's October of 2014, and life is good.
Life is awesome. Life really is awesome. I can't complain because of so much has happened since I've seen you last. Everything from I'll just put it in a simple format. I learned my ABCs in a period of 18 months just a few years ago. I had an accident, bankruptcy, cancer, divorce, employee theft, failed business, and when I got through all of that, the G happened, and it was my grandmother died, and it was like, oh my gosh. So I stopped following the alphabet, and I've started a new one.
Well, Halloween is coming, so maybe that'll be your H.
Yeah, that's right.
A good H, not a bad H.
That's right.
Wow, that's a lot of
It was a tough go there for a while, and the doctor, when he came to tell me about my cancer, it had been misdiagnosed for almost 3 months, and they kept telling me I was constipated. And I said, I know I'm full of crap, but come on, there's got to be something else here. So three different emergency ward doctors in 2 different hospitals said, no, you're just constipated. And I went, oh. Finally, I was in so much pain the 4th time, and this was, I started December 4th, and it wasn't until Groundhog Day that the next year that one doctor said, in emergency in a totally different hospital, she said, I am not letting you out of here until I find out what's wrong, because this is not constipation. And then she came back and said, we think it's a touch of cancer. We're going to put you upstairs for a little while. And then they did a few tests, and then 2 days later, this doctor comes into my room, and he goes, are you Mr. Spilchuk? And I went, yes. You've got cancer! And then I went, whoa. And my first inclination was to blame him because his bedside manner sucked. But what really happened was I just sort of, my default mechanism is humor. So after talking, I said, how serious is it? Oh, very, very serious, very, very serious. And I said, are you telling me I should get my affairs in order? Oh, yes, very much, very much. And then I just sort of, and then I said, but I haven't had any affairs. And he goes, oh, that's not funny. And I went, yes, it is. So I tried to deal with it with humor, and the funny thing is as I was in the hospital, this was just a normal hospital before they put me into Princess Margaret, the cancer hospital, it kept getting worse in front of their eyes. All of a sudden, a big thing starts growing on my neck, and oh my God. And so the cool thing is from Groundhog Day to get your affairs in order to 7 months later, they said you're cancer-free. And so I feel blessed that I received a miracle. So I thank God for that, for His role in my life there. And friends, family, doctors, and nurses. I'm doing a speech in Santa Barbara soon to 100 nurses saying the doctors helped me, the nurses saved my life. And they like that. So, yeah, it was pretty cool. So, yeah, it's been an interesting 18 months to go through the bankruptcy and everything like that. So,
yeah.
Now we're
written the book about it, right?
Oh, the book. Yeah, we wrote a book called The Cancer Dance, What to Do When Cancer Catches You with Your Pants Down. And it's a picture of me in an open-back hospital gown crossing the busiest street in Toronto right in front of my hospital. And the cover has caught the attention of so many people, and they go, whoa, what's going on? So I wrote it like we wrote the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. As you remember, Jeff, I wrote Cup of Soup for the Soul many, many years ago. And I did it in individual stories. So the time the nurse came in and to take my blood, and the time the nurse, the doctor came in to say you've got cancer. So there's 60 individual stories, and some are serious, and how do you deal with chemo, and some are funny, and sort of like I don't compare myself to Dave Barry, but people have said, oh, I enjoyed reading your book because I got into the serious, and then the funny really took the pressure off. And so it was a really nice way to handle the cancer situation. And for anybody who's a speaker or a budding author or out there, we are in negotiations right now. And again, it's I almost hate to say it because if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't. So there's a company who looked at the book, and they're looking at buying potentially 43,000 copies of the book, and
Wow.
because one of their senior executives has cancer. And when we sort of pitched it to them and said, will this help you? It wasn't even my idea. It was a friend of mine said, if I help you get this book in, can I be the co-author? And I went, done. Because he's a cancer survivor too. So he was hanging out with a cancer cluster, and helping this guy. And long story short, we need 7 yeses and we have 5 of them. So,
Wow, that's great.
We're getting there. So yeah.
Now, who's going to star in the movie?
The movie. Oh well, I always tell people, and forgive me for not telling this, but the book The Cancer Dance. You hear cancer, and I always say, spoiler alert, I survived.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do, by the way, is we're going to change the title because the book's been out for a year, really only in Canada, but I am going to release it into the States pretty soon. But I wanted to get the feedback and see what people really thought and stuff like that. And it's been phenomenal. And one of my coolest calls came from a friend of mine down in Florida who happened to get the book. And she called me from the hospice room. And she said, Barry, my mom's dying. And she wanted me to tell you that your book helped her through the transition. And it was like, oh my gosh. And then she said she knew that something special was going on because when she checked into hospice for the last night, the hospice care worker's name was Barry. There's just not too many of us out there anymore. And so she called me at 1 o'clock in the morning, and she called me again at 7 o'clock in the morning when Mom had gone. And she just said, Barry, this has been a big help, and Mom felt like you were with her the whole way. And the funny thing is, I never met her mom. So for those of you who are authors out there or speakers, you got to write a book. You got to do something to put your. I don't care if it's 12 pages long. Get it out there and get your message out there because you want to leave a legacy. And it's tough to leave a legacy when you're on stage, and whether there's 2 or 2,000 in the audience, it's great. But what do they get to take home if you don't have a book or you don't have a memoir or something?
Right. Well, remember our friend Scott de Graffenried, all he did was record all his talks, and his wife, who unfortunately has passed away, but she transcribed all his talks, did some editing, and that's how all 3 of his books were done.
That's awesome. Well, and Scott is just a gentle genius and a gentle giant, and what really matters about Scott, and this is a message for all of us, is he cares for his audience. He cares about the message that they get and what they can do with the information. And it's not all about Scott. Those, we all have a different style. My style, as you know, is because you've seen me a few times, is serious but goofy. Like I like to transfer information whenever possible, but do it in a fun way. Because one of my teachers a long time ago said, if you can make them laugh, you can make them learn. And so I can even take the toughest stuff that I've been through, whether it be cancer or stuff where you have a hard time understanding your dad and why he did the things he did when and actually bring a little bit of humor to it to lighten the load a little bit. And so as I continue my ministry, if you will, it'll be in the way of honoring the gifts I've been given and the gifts I've been blessed with to get them out there in the marketplace, because the marketplace doesn't want me imitating you, and when I was coming back from all this, and because all of that stuff happened 4.5 years ago, I was scared. I was scared to go back in the marketplace because, when I did the Chicken Soup book, it was 1996, and there was no such thing as the internet and email, so I didn't capture one email name, and so 580,000 books sold, no emails. And then I got sick, and then all of a sudden YouTube came while I was sick, and all this stuff happened, and I had nothing. And when I went to start again, I was almost scared. Well, not almost scared. I was scared. There's one of the lessons for all of us to learn. Tell the truth faster. I was scared. And then I started using fear as an excuse, and I said, and then I ended up meeting with a guy. I got a call from a graduate of CEO Space. And she says, I met you 5 years ago. A friend of mine just went and is thinking of going. Can you meet him in Toronto? He's a little bit stuck. And, I was sitting there thinking, oh, man, another meeting where I have to go help somebody else, and I know I'm not going to get paid for this, and I've just gone through a bankruptcy, and oh my God. And then it just said, stop it. Stop it. Your job is to help people, And so I get down there. We had a 3-hour meeting. I solved his problem in about 20 minutes. And I solved his problem in 2 minutes. We chatted for 18 minutes. He went, geez, that's all I need to know. Thank you. And then I thought I was going to go. He spent 2.5 hours helping me. And it was one thing he said, and this is good for all of us speakers out there and all of us authors and stuff like that. I said, geez, I'm a little worried. How do I start all over again? And he just said, he just said the simple words, the sheep know the sound of the shepherd's voice. And yeah, and not that we want to consider our people sheep.
No, it's not. We don't mean it that way.
No, but the sheep know the sound of the shepherd's voice. Your audience will find you if you're in your true, authentic self. So when you're telling the truth about whatever's going on in your life, the good stuff and the bad stuff, and and putting a spin on it, and what's the bless and the mess, your audience is going to find you, because there's a lot out there. And people say, well, why did you go through all that stuff? Well, nobody ever knows why. But one of the blesses and the messes that there's very few people, like when I'm coaching now, that they can come up and say, well, you don't understand. You have no idea what I've been through. Well, I kind of sort of do. I kind of sort of do. And, being through accident, bankruptcy, cancer, divorce, and then massive obesity, weight gain, because I was scared, and I don't drink or do drugs, and my drug of choice is food. So my weight has changed 400 pounds since the cancer incident. I went down 100, up 100, down 100, up 100. And one of my teachers told me a long time ago, she said, fat is nothing more than dreams in storage. Wow. And I went for the laugh, and I put my gut up there, and I said, oh, I must have a lot of dreams. She didn't laugh. She pointed her finger in my face and said, yeah, and what are you going to do about it? Wow. And as soon as she told me that, and every time I gain weight, I look and oh my gosh, I'm suppressing my dreams again. It's like suppressing the beach ball under the water. You're in a pool, and you're trying to push the beach ball down. And it's the same as I'm suppressing my dreams in my system. I'm suppressing my feelings. And guess what? A beach ball grew in my stomach. And absolutely nobody's fault but my own. I'm the one who put the pizza in there. Well, it wasn't just one pizza at a time. It was one heck of a pizza. But over time, I got out of the cancer hospital, and I felt sorry for myself. I moved back in with my former wife. We're still not legally divorced, but we're legally separated. But she's still my best friend. And it's so weird. People go, how do you do that? Well, even in my intros now, when I go to give a speech, I say he's got 3 awesome kids and the most amazing former wife ever, and people, really? They go, what? Yeah, I mean, we're friends. We're best friends, always will. We have 3 awesome kids together. We just, were there when our son walked up the aisle 10 days ago, and everybody thought, I thought you two were divorced. Well, no, not yet, but we will be, and we still live together. And people go, how did you do that? Well, we didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. But when the money was gone and there was nothing left, we said, well, we better live together, because I was paying her rent and I was also paying my condo bill. And it was like, this is crazy. And when I got out of the hospital, they said, you can't go home alone. So Karen said, well, why don't you move back in with us? We'll take care of you till you get better. And we'll take it from there. And that was 4 years ago, and we're still together. I'd asked her, are you sure you want to be divorced? She goes, yeah. Okay, cool. Because we just want to, like, she's 62 now. I'm 50. I'll be 57 in November. And for the rest of our lives, we just want to do totally different things. Like I want to hop on a plane and go to London, England, and maybe go to Prague or something like that. I also want to hop in a car and cruise around. One of my cool things that I want to do on my list is I want to hop in a car and start driving around the United States and meeting Facebook friends that I have dear relationships with, but I have no idea who they are.
Well, and that sounds like a book in itself there, too.
Oh, it does. It really is.
Facebook Across America or something like that.
Ooh, I'm writing that one down. That's really cool. So this is awesome. Is there anything else I can help with, or is there anything like?
Well, I'm wondering what you're doing to keep, you've always had a great attitude, and nobody could see your niche targeting, niche marketing talk and not remember all those hangers that you used to bring to the front of the room. Just for those who are watching us or listening, it was all about finding your niche, and Barry would bring all these different kinds of hangers because they all did the same thing, but they did them for different audiences. Mm-hmm. And the punchline was like the hanger from the hotel that you can't use anywhere else because there's no hook to hang it up.
Yeah. And then always the most expensive hanger in your home is the $2,500 Nordic track you've got in your bedroom.
Exactly.
That's the high-end hanger.
and I wasn't speaking yet when I first came to CEO Space, and I attribute that organization as being one of the driving forces that got me into speaking. I'm
so glad, Jeff, because you are such a quiet genius. You don't go around waving your own flag. You go around waving everybody else's flag. And what was really kind of neat is the way you just quietly helped everybody. And then when you made that decision to become a speaker, I think all of us started waving a flag because we knew you had something inside of you that had to get out. And I'm so glad you made that decision. So life is good that way in the speaking circuit for you?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's everything keeps changing. First I was a business speaker. I was speaking to get clients for the ad agency I had started in 2001. And we started this, the Speaker Co-op, we started this networking lunch for speakers to find more free engagements, more unpaid, and we keep changing the name. Now we call them visibility engagements. Where get in front of an audience.
Yeah.
And, I wound up
another
doing
term
that.
For that is showcase.
Yeah.
Another term
right.
for that is showcase. I'd be happy to do a showcase seminar for you so you can see my talents, and then if it works, then we, and then make sure, and you're probably already doing this, but one of the things I always like to suggest to budding speakers, because I started the Canada's Public Speaking Academy because people wanted to learn how to speak and things like that, is to make sure if you're going to do not a freebie, okay, because free, but it's a showcase, is ask that the only payment you ask for in return is a honest testimonial letter when you're done, even if the honesty is you sucked, because then they've got something on the line, then they pay attention, and then if you did suck, then you can be less sucky the next time, So
right. Well, and you probably haven't heard this part of my story because we reconnected on Facebook and we've chatted a few times in the last couple of years, but I was speaking at Kendall E. Pernin's weekly lunch.
Oh yeah.
Where we taught the 30-second commercial and promoted CEO Space.
Oh.
And the other main place I was speaking was at the weekly previews for CEO Space.
Oh, okay.
And then people started asking me to come do that 30-second lesson at other groups.
Oh, okay.
So I started doing that, and then somebody called me and said, we want you to come back, and 4 of us want to pay you to do a workshop. And okay, that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
And then somebody else said, we want you to come speak again. We want a different topic. So I pitched an advertising topic, and they said, no, we want more business networking.
Oh. So
I started creating more content, and I wound up creating 6 hours of business networking training.
Wow.
That way.
That's so needed. Yeah.
Yeah. And so 2006 was big because in 2006, we started Speaker Co-op in January 2006. As a way to network with each other. Mm-hmm. And most of the people in the room, again, were not looking for a speaker fee. They wanted to get in front of their customers, their prospects.
Okay.
And that summer, I got 3 phone calls in the same week, right around my birthday, for speaking engagements at groups that I had not solicited.
Wow.
And so that was the week I said, so I'm no longer a free speaker. I'm a speaker who's willing to waive his fee.
Yeah. There you go. Very cool.
And I also came out with my CD in 2006, though, on the 30-second commercial.
Oh, wow.
So I had something because I was selling advertising. I was selling videos and websites and ad campaigns. And as you know, that's maybe 10 or 20% of the room at a Chamber of Commerce or Rotary, what have you.
Right.
But everybody in the room is a prospect for a $20 CD.
Right.
So 2007, I set a goal to speak once a week.
Wow.
All to promote Klein Creative, my agency. And I did that, and then I set a goal to speak twice a week in 2008. And I did that, and I did that again in 2009.
Oh, my goodness.
So, yeah, so I spoke 250 times in 3 years.
So how did you do that?
It was networking, it was referrals, it was doing a great job in the room, so people in the room wanted me to come to their place.
Right. Very cool.
Now, I only got a speaker fee about 5% of the time.
Right.
But I made revenue 98% of the time.
Obviously. Way to go.
Yeah, and then a coach came into my life in 2010, Kathy Brandon, who made me realize that I now had a second expertise. Besides business networking, I was now an expert on business speaking because I'd done it 250 times in 3 years.
Excellent. Oh, yeah. Isn't it neat how somebody from the outside can take a look at you and just shift your focus and also your income?
And that's how Speaker Co-op became a business instead of, I don't want to say a hobby because it was never that, but just it went from being a thing to being a business.
Yeah.
And I closed the agency, and I officially closed it in 2011, so I could say I was in business for 10 years. But I started getting away from it as early as 2009.
Wow.
And doing more speaking and training, and now it's not a networking group anymore. Speaker Co-op is an education and exposure group for business people who speak.
That's amazing.
And fortunately, we attract public speakers as well because we're teaching the same information.
Right.
But our focus is on that person who is speaking, so somebody will become their client. Speaker's not their job title.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's so many people who just get kerfuffled when they have to stand up and say something, and and the simple basis is just tell the truth. What do you have to offer them? It has nothing to do with you. What do you have to offer them? How can you serve them? And if you're talking about them and how their lives can be better versus, oh, look at my new Mercedes. I mean, at the end of the bankruptcy and everything, we had to sell not sell, but our lease was up and we gave it up. But living in downtown Toronto, I've been 3 years without a car now because I don't need one.
Transportation.
Yeah, we're 200 yards from a subway stop, and I'm sure you have Zipcar down there in Texas and everything like that. And
not in Dallas, but I know about it.
Yeah, and there are 5 Zipcar lots anywhere, so you can rent a car for like if it's in the middle of the week, it's $10 an hour, includes gas, taxes, and the rental and insurance. And it's like, oh my God! And then I've got an Avis lot just about a mile away. So if I need a car, like we needed a car for my son's wedding, we needed it for 3 days, go to Avis. You need a car for a few hours, you go to Zipcar because a taxi ride anywhere in Toronto is $20. You can rent a Zipcar for 3 hours for $30. So
have you got Uber there yet?
Uber, yes, we do. We do. I haven't used Uber yet.
I haven't either. I'm intrigued by the whole concept.
Yeah.
But I also think about the poor taxi drivers though, because they're regulated so heavily, and they don't get it. They can't change their rates.
Yeah. Well, I always use the taxis when I'm in downtown because trying to park in downtown Toronto. Oh my gosh, it's the cheapest is like right downtown on the core is $3.50 per half hour. And who has 50 cents? I mean, to plug it's crazy. But the taxi drivers, you wave them down. And one thing, I can't use Uber because I don't have a cell phone. And I think I'm the only person in the world who doesn't have a And people go, how come you don't have a cell phone? At this moment, I don't want one. When I went into the cancer hospital, I gave up the cell phone. And when I came back out, I couldn't afford one. And now that I can afford one, I still don't want one. But I have a feeling sometime maybe around Christmas, it might be on my list. So.
The big flaw without a cell phone is you can't find a payphone anywhere.
True. But I usually have my laptop with me, and almost everywhere has got Wi-Fi now, so I'll plug in, and But I can count on one hand the times that, oh my God, I wish I had a cell phone. But I missed an appointment. Remember Dr. Schuler, who ran the Crystal Cathedral down in California? He wrote about 30 books and stuff like that. Well, somebody got me an appointment with him. Now, this is so cool. Now, the reason I missed the appointment was I was playing golf with his son in a tournament called the Pastors Masters. I'm not even a pastor, but they said, would you like to play in the Pastors Masters? And I was like, sure. And the people at my hotel, they wouldn't leave. I said, leave him out. Even though I've checked out, I'm going to get this call. And they said, well, what's the point of taking a message if you're not here? I said, but I'm going to call in. And they didn't. So no cell phone. That one hurt. But other than that, it's been okay.
All right. Okay. Well, I go back to the pager day.
Pardon?
I go back to the pager days because when I was working in the film business and I had a pager and I had to make sure I had change in the car with me because I had to stop at payphones constantly to return pages.
Well, I've been doing a lot of videos lately, and I went and bought a little compact video camera, and I realized if I had an iPhone, I'd be able to do a lot of that stuff on the iPhone. So I pretty well resigned myself to the fact, but I'm going to hold out. I'm going to maybe my 57th birthday's coming up November 10th. If anybody's listening, they want to buy me an iPhone, I'll take it. But
I like the separate cameras better than the one on the iPhone for what you're doing.
Oh yeah.
But the one on the phone works okay. But the couple of ones out there that plug directly into your laptop and push it right up to YouTube and all that. Right. The camera itself, I like those a lot. I think you get a better video that way than you do with your phone.
And also too, you do get the better video, and also too, you've got that instant, because lately, especially after bouncing back after all this stuff, it's like you'll get little insights. I'll watch people on the subway. I'll do this. I'll say, and I go, oh my God! And there's a new story for a new book. As a matter of fact, I should. This book, The Cancer Dance, that we spoke about earlier, when we re-release it, we're going to change the title to Life Goes On, because The Cancer Dance. A lot of people said, well, geez, my friend read it and he had a heart attack and he really enjoyed it too, and so it was too niched. And I thought, okay, the cancer community is going to embrace it. Okay. We're going to call it Life Goes On: How to Bounce Back from a Setback.
And that sure goes with the cover picture, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And people say, well, why is the hospital gown open? And I said, because I like to tell the truth, And ironically, 12 of the last 14 speeches I've given, I've been dressed like that. Even in front of us, the state police. We had 200 state police, and I dressed like that. And I was fortunate I got a standing ovation when I was done. And they all had guns. They didn't have to stand, But they said, what's your ultimate goal? I said, well, I have a line of licensed man panties that I'm going to release, every day but Sunday, So, yeah, so there's lots going on, and I'm happy to be alive. I always was, but even happier lately.
What do you do to relax, Barry?
I like to read, and I also like to watch TV. I'm a TV nut. I'm everything from NCIS to old Columbo reruns to. We don't have HBO in our TV set here, so the kids have been buying me the Newsroom with Jeff Daniels.
Oh yeah.
And then my kids finally convinced me to watch Breaking Bad. So one of the channels here, I think AMC, had. Every Sunday for 8 Sundays, I think they had the Breaking Bad thing, and it just ended this Sunday with the last year, going from 5 till 1 in the morning, and watched them all back to back. And so those are the kind of things that I like to watch. Oh, sorry, phone in the background.
Did you think that was one of the best endings of a series ever?
It was pretty spectacular. It was. I missed a few of the really good episodes where they apparently my wife and kids said that the train episode is really fantastic, and I missed that. It was so fantastic, apparently, that my daughter did a. They always do a gingerbread house, even though they're in her 20s. They did a gingerbread house recreation of the Train episode last year for Christmas, which was pretty cool. So, the ending was cool. But my favorite television program of all time, even though I'm a Canadian, I just love The West Wing with Martin Sheehan and Rob Lowe and the cast. It was so smart and so funny, and just it really kept your mind going, and it was current, and yet, you know, some people, I don't like it because the Democrats are in power, and some people, I don't like it because they picked on the Democrats. It was a great TV show.
They were missing the point, yeah. I'm actually rewatching it. I'm rewatching it on Netflix myself right now.
Yeah.
A couple episodes a week, not like all at once.
Yeah.
Well, I watched Dead all at once when the new season came on. I binge watched that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of my favorite shows of all time. If I had to pick my favorite of all time, though, it's Hill Street Blues, hands down.
Yes. Okay. What was his nickname?
Talking about Pizza Man?
Yeah, Pizza Man. And who played the girl who said Pizza Man?
Oh my God, I know. If it's one of those things, if you hadn't asked me, I could have said her name.
Right. Veronica.
Yeah, Veronica Hamill.
Yeah. Oh my. I think it was one of my multiple crushes when I was a teenage boy watching Hill Street Blues. Like, of course, she's the only woman in the whole. Well, no, I guess there was Betty, whatever.
There were a couple more, yeah.
Betty Thomas. Yeah. But no, it was a great show. You're right. That was a good show. But Columbo, I think I've got a little bit of Columbo in me because I'll just one more thing, you know.
You've done sales training, both giving and receiving, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Have you ever heard of the Columbo close?
I invented my own Columbo close. I'd love to hear yours.
Well, it's where you start to leave and you go, oh, by the way, what about this?
Oh yeah, if we did this, yes, that's right. As a matter of fact, I wrote about the Columbo moment in the Cancer Dance when we had just decided to separate. We decided to move to Toronto to follow the kids because two of the kids were going to, and I was seeing a doctor at the time, a psychiatrist. I'll just say it out loud. Oh, it was a therapist. No, it was a psychiatrist. And I was getting treated for depression, but it was one of those I was smiling on the outside, but on the inside I was just a mess. And
been there.
Yeah, and it was a Columbo moment when I turned and I put my hand on the doorknob and I was leaving and I said, Doc, I feel like I've been taking care of the whole world for the last 20 years. Why can't someone just take care of me? And I started crying. He pulled out the blue notebook and the file and started writing and everything. And under the premise of be careful what you ask for, 4 months later, I'm in Princess Margaret Cancer Hospital, and the nurses are taking care of me on every little thing. Because I was one of those guys, I love to give, so you will love me. But receiving was tough for me. Asking for help was tough for me. And
you and I have in common.
Yeah, and I had this thing, and I think God gives us the coolest lessons. And he says, look, if you're not going to learn the ask for help lesson, here's what we're going to do. I've given you so many opportunities to ask for help. I'm going to put you in a position where you have to ask for help. And, I mean, things that I could do that when I was 2 and 3 years old, you know, like go to the bathroom myself, I couldn't even do anymore. And I had to ask nurses to help me. And it was like, wow. And it's like, and now asking for help, even though it's still not easy, I can do it now and say, hey, by the way, you know, could you do this? And by the way, could you do that? And if they say no, because if I would ask for help and they said no, that means they didn't love me, you know, and because if I was doing everything for them to love me. So it was part of a maturation process as well. You know, it's like you're not always going to get what you ask for, but you can keep asking. You know, you don't have to keep asking the same person, and sometimes no is a good answer because that's not the way you're supposed to go. You know, so yeah, it's part of a growing up process. So, but I'm still a little kid at heart. You know. 50,
that reminds me of a great line, and I can't remember who the playwright is, but the play is Sister Mary Ignatius Explains It All to You. And the line is that God answers every prayer. It's just that sometimes the answer is no.
Mm. Yes, that's true. That's true. Because he knows better. You know,
Yeah.
we think we want this, but we don't. It's like, yeah, I get it. I get it.
We covered books. What are you reading lately?
I've always been a big fan of the Og Mandino series.
Yeah.
Anything that, the greatest salesman in the world and all this kind of stuff. And I also like to read true stories of people. Like my son got me Phil, the coach of the Lakers, Phil Jackson,
Okay.
the coach of the Jackson, Bobby Orr,
Pat,
Pardon?
Pat Jackson? No, that's not right.
No, that was you're thinking of Pat Riley.
You're right.
Yeah, yeah, Phil Jackson. Yeah, and then there was Jack Patterson and but those kind of books I like, and then just anything that's going to uplift me and things like that. Like being a chicken soup guy, I'm still a sucker for all the movies, the rom-coms, and the movies that make you cry. And there's a big article in the newspaper on the weekend about there's sappy movies are making a comeback, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm not surprised because everything is circular, but with the popularity of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books and people wanting to cry, I went to see The Fault in Our Stars. I don't know if you saw that. They call it a chick flick, and apparently the book was phenomenal, but I didn't read it. But I go to the theater, and I am one of maybe 3 guys in the entire theater. And all of a sudden, throughout the movie, I'm hearing... And I felt like I was at a Chicken Soup for the Soul reading festival. Everybody was like, and then the lights went on, and people were wiping their eyes and crying, and I'm just I said, this is cool. I liked it. And the movie touched me so much. I just thought it was awesome. I hope that the young lady who was the lead actress gets an Oscar nomination. She was that good, in my opinion. But it was a feel-good movie with a couple of twists, and really, really, it lifts me up to go to a movie and see, movies that I just went to see. What is it, Henry and his Man's Search for Meaning, or whatever his name was, and just last week, and Hector and the Search for a Meaningful Life or something. And it's a fun little thing about a British guy searching for what brings him joy. And what I've discovered, and I think this movie discovers, joy's an inside job. What does bring you joy? Do more of that. Like what brings you joy? What makes you happy?
Lots of things. I mean, I love my nephew and my nieces, but I also like to go play poker. That's a great way to blow off steam.
Wow.
Little Texas Hold'em, and I was playing online for a while, and then I found some places I could play in person, and that's much more. I'm too social to be sitting in front of a computer.
Yeah.
Without real people, or without being able to interact with people.
Would you ever like to go to the World Series of Poker one day?
It's a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I can help you make it come true. Let's get out there and we'll create some stuff. And one of my secret goals, and I know my brother will never watch this, but one of my secret goals is to have enough money is to buy him a ticket to enter the World Series of Poker, because he's really good at it, and he's won a few local tournaments and things like that, and he just, I don't know, he just has the skill. I'm not a big fan of lying, so like when you're bluffing, to me that's lying, and it's like, I'm sorry, it looks like I have 4 aces, but I've got 2, 3, Jack, 10, 9, and no. And you mean they're not wild? So,
yeah, well, I mean, and I love to watch it on TV. I know a lot. Like my sister thinks I'm crazy that I can watch poker on TV, but
yeah,
it's not just what is he thinking. It's what does he think I think he's got.
Exactly.
And what is he think I think he thinks I've got.
Yeah. And does he know that I think that he's trying to think that I'm thinking about bluffing?
Right. Sometimes the he's a she, so that's always challenging.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, look at who is that famous actress who went out there, and she always wore a low-cut top.
Jennifer Tilly.
Yes, Jennifer Tilly. Yeah, and she said, well, anything to distract them. If they're concentrating on those instead of my chips, then we're good. Well,
that's what happened to Welcome Back, Kotter. Gabe Kaplan is poker player, and he commentates on some of the poker TV shows.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like he went out to Vegas or Atlantic City or whatever, and he's in the gambling world now instead of the acting and stand-up comedy world.
Oh, wow. Now, can I guess there's people who can make a living from that, you know?
Yeah, there are. You know, the Congress changed a law a few years ago, and a bunch of guys who were making a living playing poker online moved out of the country. Some of them are up there with you in Canada. Some of them are like in the Virgin Islands or places like that, because it's illegal now to play poker for money on the internet in America.
Oh. Wow.
And there's a couple of states that have come back around, like New Jersey is trying, or the casino guys are trying to get Nevada to have online gambling,
right?
So the poker players will move back to live in Vegas year round. A lot of them spend their time out of the country for part of the year, so they can play online poker.
Mm. Well, I remember after it became so popular on TV, we have a couple casinos in Ontario, and I decided, I'll go see what's it all about. Yeah. And so I'm the first guy, like I'm a new guy sitting at the table, and you can look at everybody going, oh, new meat, okay, and then it takes a couple hands for them to figure you out. But they figured me out pretty quick. I got a lucky hand right at the start, and they went, oh, because I play the cards. It's like,
yeah.
Oh, I got a royal flush. Well, that's tough to beat. I'll go with that, you know. But I only have a pair of sevens. How the hell do you win a hand like that? You know, apparently you can't. And so, yeah, I wasn't good at the bluffing stuff.
Well, the cardinal rule with especially Texas Hold'em, but all poker, is you play the person, not the cards.
Right.
But often you have to have cards to back up your play.
Yeah. And what I learned was you don't play every hand.
Exactly. Yeah, I had to learn that at the racetrack.
Yeah.
You don't bet every race.
Yeah. I was betting so I could see the flop. Well, I don't care if I have 4 or 7. Maybe I'll draw 5, 6, 8. You know, like maybe. Not good. So.
Yeah, I worked at the racetrack in Shreveport when I was between high school and college, and between freshman and sophomore years of college, Louisiana Downs. So I learned a lot about gambling those 2 summers.
Right.
I learned a lot about people too, Barry, and people watching. There's still no better place to people watch than at a racetrack.
Yeah.
The State Fair is close. State Fair of Texas is going on right now, but yeah. So it was don't bet every race and don't play every hand is the recent version of that. There's an outfit I'll mention. I'll give them a plug before we finish up, called the Poker Players Alliance, which is a lobbying organization that's lobbying federally and by state to make poker legal again. Online poker. So I send them $15 every year, and I get a T-shirt and a card holder from the Poker Players Alliance.
And you get flagged as a rebel.
Maybe, I doubt my NSA file is very thick.
Yeah, that's not National Speakers Association, right?
No, that's another NSA,
yeah.
A different one.
I'm curious, by working at the racetrack and watching people at the state fair, what did you learn? What did you learn about people?
Well, one of the main things I learned, Barry, was that you can't judge people by the way they look.
Mm.
This was a valuable lesson when I worked retail.
Yeah.
I always got flying colors when I got secret shopped. When I worked at like Radio Shack, they'd send secret shoppers,
right,
which would be a guy dressed in shorts and flip flops.
Yeah.
In my high-end neighborhood Radio Shack that I managed, and
right.
I would always get high scores on the secret shoppers because some of my customers looked like that, and they spent quite a bit of money. So that was when we sold cell phones for $1,499 for a cell.
And it was those big monsters,
right? The brick phone. Yeah, we had the brick and we had the bag phone. Yeah. And I sold half a dozen of them the Christmas I managed that store in 87, I think it was.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was I learned that you can't judge people by the way they look, and then I also learned that sometimes you can. but I also learned that it doesn't cost anything to be nice to people.
It doesn't, and I think that's nice. Nice as a strategy is weird, but nice as just you become nice, people want to hang out with you. And one of the things, big thing I learned in the last little while, I've been a big fan of Maya Angelou, and I guess we were all sad when she died, but it's something that I wish I would have taken to heart, because I might have heard it years ago, but I don't know. But a few years ago, she said, "When people show you who they are, believe them." And, oh my gosh, that caused me a lot of pain by not believing them, by taking my nice guy thing and being naive. You know, our mutual friend Bernie, a couple times he said, "I love you, man, and you're so naive. You know, you're so nice to everybody. You gotta put up some walls and put up a filter." And I go, "But will I be me then?" And that was going back to I want people to love me. But oh my gosh, I've been, let's just say, I've been screwed a couple of times by.
Me too. But you know what, Barry? I'm not willing to change who I am. I'm still going to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Exactly.
Because I know too many miserable people who don't trust anybody.
Yeah, that's true. I'm still very trusting, but now, if possible, I like a little more proof. Like, I even signed a contract with people once when I sold the You're My Hero business, because I started a book series after Chicken Soup, and I sold it, and I sold 2/3 of it while I was in my hospital bed. So there was, God answered a prayer and said, "I need money. What am I going to do?" And they seemed nice people, and off to the side they are. But in business, oh my gosh, it was really weird, because they thought, because they had 2/3 of the company and I had 1/3, that they could change the original contract that we signed, and it was like, okay, we can sign anything because we're going to change it. So and it was like, what?
That's not really how a contract works, is it?
Yeah, and one guy said, "Well, I'm going to be the accountant and I'm going to take care of everything," and then he wanted to spend $2,000 a month on a bookkeeper because he really didn't know how to be the accountant. And I said, "Why are we spending $2,000 a month on a bookkeeper? We only write 7 checks, and 5 of them are to the creative guy." So what do you do? "Oh, well, this and that." And then when I asked to see the books, "Oh, well, what do you need to see the books for? What do you mean, you don't trust me?" And I'm going, "Well, how do you say that and carry on a partnership?" I said, "Well, even if I do trust you, I want to see the books, and never showed them to me. Never showed them to me. And they say it was my greed that caused and I'm going, I just want to live up to the contract we signed all at the same time, and it just, so that, and then just other people, the way they handle you, and sometimes it's their own insecurities, and they're trying to figure out, can I trust this guy? Is he too nice? Why is he too nice? And all those kind of things. So it's getting there. So
I understand, and I also find, though, that the people who are the least trusting are the least trustworthy.
Yeah, I guess because they know all the angles.
Well, I mean, there's a reason. There's because they don't trust anybody else.
Right.
That they don't believe there's consequences for not being trusted or what have you. I mean,
and it's strange.
So I watch out for people, and I get contracts and all that. I'm not. I haven't had any of those kind of problems, but I still don't. I still give people the benefit of the doubt on the front end.
Yeah, I think you have to.
They have to screw up to lose that.
Yeah, yeah. As long as screwing up doesn't cost you money,
Right.
Yeah, because we left that partnership with them owing me $250,000 on paper, $50,000 right up front, and then I never saw it. I did get bought out, which was nice for the first round, but when they wanted to change the deal, oh my goodness, And then I did the same thing when I did I don't know if you remember the Let's Talk programs, because I still have a dream to save 1 million marriages.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening is I took my profits from Chicken Soup for the Soul and I turned them into this Let's Talk thing. And I betted on, I wanted to do an infomercial because everybody was doing an infomercial. This guy hit a $3 million home run. and I trusted him, and poof, almost $400,000 was lost to this guy because I trusted him. And again, my fault. I wanted to believe he was who he said he was, and I got hoodwinked, and it's my fault. I take total responsibility for it. But there is a bless in every mess, and what we couldn't deliver, 14 years ago, I'm re-releasing Let's Talk into the marketplace digitally now, and everybody can have it at a fair price that doesn't hurt anybody. So it's
you can do a master model where people become monthly members, or
I'm working with Greg Reiter, and I'm doing some stuff about Let's Talk About Money, about the issues we have around money, and not just the power of attraction, but what do you do if you're a spender and your partner's a saver? How do you talk to the kids about money? How do you change your self-image around money? And I had to take the lessons that we taught 15 years ago and get them back to get my confidence back, to get the money supply going again. And then let's talk about relationships. I still want to save 1 million marriages, because it's there's so many people who walk out of a marriage and because they never talked. They didn't know how to talk. They didn't know what to say. They didn't know how to say it, and and their own self-image. And then all this stuff that we created years ago for the relationships, it's now digitally online, and and now you've got the money thing, and it's now digitally online, where we had to package this and sell it for $600 years ago. Now we can sell it for less than 100, and it's like, wow, and it's right there. So that's the neat thing about the new marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Well, this has been a blast, Barry. I want to do another hour, but we're gonna let people go.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being in Speakers Sitting in Chairs, Chatting on Air.
My pleasure.
Let's you and I stay in touch and see how we can help each other with our endeavors. You already helped me with telling me about a great outfit that I've been reaching out to, and so I appreciate that. And
would you mind if I shared my personal email address with your audience?
Not at all. Go ahead.
I know we've got my website along there. That's basically for my speaking, but I know you've got a nice little niche crew here, and I'm not afraid to give them this is the email address that will come right to me. It won't go through anybody, and it's simply mycoachbarry@gmail.com. mycoachbarry@gmail.com. And so if you've heard anything today that you might want to talk about or you're interested in, feel free to send me an email, and I'll get to it, because I get a couple hundred emails a day. But anything that there's some stuckness or whatever, I'd be happy to chat with anybody if they're interested in anything.
Well, put Jeff Klein in the subject line, and then it won't look like spam.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Jeff Klein. I heard you on Jeff Klein. Yeah.
Something like that.
And then I'll know they're for real, because they come from you.
mycoachbarry@gmail.com.
That's it.
All right, Barry. Thank you so much. You can find Barry to speak at bookbarry.com. You can find me at jeffkleinspeaker.com. Have a great day, and we will see you next time.
Jeff, it's been my honor. Thank you so much.